The sound of quiet luxury fills the air, soft jazz, gentle footsteps, and the faint scent of imported leather. Inside Maison Duclair, the most exclusive boutique on New York's Upper East Side, every item gleams beneath golden light. Handbags aren't displayed. They're worshipped, and today one customer dares to touch what few are allowed to hold. A woman named Danielle Brooks, graceful, confident, and calm, stands before a glass pedestal. Her fingers, polished and steady, trace the edges of a rare handcrafted handbag priced at over $9,000. Each stitch speaks of craftsmanship. Each detail whispers status. Before she can even admire it fully, a sharp voice cuts through the air. "Excuse me, ma'am, that item isn't available for handling." The boutique manager, Edward Sloan, strides forward, his shoes echoing authority. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. He steps between Danielle and the display, lifts the bag from her hands and replaces it as if correcting a crime scene. "This edition is reserved for our private clients," he explains, lowering his tone as though sharing a secret. "You might find something more suitable near the clearance section by the exit." The insult hangs heavy, disguised as courtesy. Danielle's expression doesn't falter. She adjusts her tailored navy blazer, the kind that quietly costs more than a month's rent. "I'd like to see this in emerald green," she says evenly. Edward chuckles, scanning her from head to toe. "Ma'am, that color is only available by appointment and—" His gaze hardens. "Let's be honest, this collection starts above your budget." The quiet around them thickens. A few customers glance up, sensing drama. Danielle tilts her wrist slightly. Her diamond watch catches the light like a silent rebuttal. She slides a folder from her pocket and places it on the counter. "Maybe you should read this before assuming my budget." Edward smirks, but curiosity wins. He flips it open and his confidence evaporates. The document bears a signature he recognizes. "I'm Danielle Brooks," she says softly, "the new owner of Maison Duclair." Edward's mouth opens, but no sound escapes. She takes back the handbag with calm precision. "And you," she adds, her eyes unwavering, "are the manager who just failed his first customer under new ownership." A ripple passes through the boutique like wind through crystal. Every whisper stops, but this isn't where the story ends. It's where it begins, because that single moment of arrogance will unravel an entire empire of quiet discrimination, built behind velvet curtains and polite smiles. Outside, the late afternoon light spills over Madison Avenue. Danielle steps from her black sedan earlier that day, unaware of the storm she's about to walk into. She's 43, a self-made tech entrepreneur who just sold her cybersecurity firm for 8 figures. After years in boardrooms, she's decided to invest in something different: luxury retail. The kind that claims to serve everyone, yet quietly decides who belongs. What she doesn't know is that this store, her newest acquisition, is about to test her patience, her principles, and the culture she thought she was simply buying into. Inside the boutique, Edward Sloan, 36, surveys his domain. His tailored charcoal suit fits perfectly, his posture polished, his confidence absolute. He prides himself on what he calls an eye for clientele, his ability to spot who truly belongs in his world. He spent years cultivating it, years mistaking bias for instinct. When Danielle enters, he sees only what he's been trained to. A black woman dressed in understated elegance, alone, no shopping bags, no entourage. His eyes make a decision before his brain does. He nods subtly to the security guard, a signal. The guard shifts his stance, ensuring a clear line of sight to her. Danielle notices. She always notices. Moments later, Edward beams as a wealthy older woman in pearls enters the store. "Mrs. Davenport," he greets her warmly. "That Chanel blazer suits you perfectly. Let me show you our newest arrivals." He gestures toward the VIP seating area, where champagne glasses already await. Danielle lingers near the accessories. She observes, listens, learns. Every word, every glance, every rule of who gets treated like royalty and who doesn't. At a nearby counter, a young sales associate, Maya, helps a customer with skill and grace. Edward approaches, whispers something that makes her shoulders tense. When he leaves, Maya's eyes flick apologetically toward Danielle, silently saying what she can't voice aloud. Danielle moves toward the handbag display, the same area where, soon, everything will unravel. She picks up the alligator-embossed handbag, studying it with quiet expertise. "The stitching on this is remarkable," she says softly, mostly to herself. "This designer uses a double-locking seam for durability, right?" Edward materializes beside her, tone polite but dismissive. "That's correct. Though this collection starts at $9,000. We usually reserve these for clients who understand the luxury market." Her eyes meet his. "I see." He continues, unable to stop himself. "If you'd like, I can show you some more accessible pieces." Danielle smiles faintly. "No, thank you. I'm curious about the emerald version. I heard each hide has to be dyed individually. That must change the price point." For a second, he's thrown. She knows what she's talking about. But then he recovers. "Our premium pieces require a small viewing deposit. Store policy. Can I see where that policy is written?" He pauses. "It's more of an understanding for our exclusive clients." Just then, another customer, a white woman in expensive activewear, approaches. "Do you have this in navy?" Edward lights up. "Of course, Miss Wilson, no deposit needed for our regulars." Danielle doesn't react. She watches, quietly memorizing. The contrast speaks louder than any argument. She pulls out her phone and sends a single message. It's short, strategic. Final. Day storm is forming behind her calm eyes, and Edward Sloan has no idea he's already inside it. The store grows tense, though no one says a word. Danielle continues to study the handbag, turning it slowly in her hands as if weighing not just the craftsmanship, but the man standing across from her. Edward lingers nearby, pretending to rearrange a few display stands while keeping her in his sight. His politeness has turned sharp around the edges. Minutes pass. Then he returns, 2 male employees shadowing him like silent guards. The shift is deliberate, a quiet performance meant to remind her of her place. "Ma'am," he begins, his voice pitched just loud enough for nearby shoppers to hear. "I've discussed your request with our team regarding the emerald handbag." He folds his hands, smiling thinly. "Unfortunately, certain items are reserved for qualified clientele. I'm afraid this isn't one of those cases." Danielle looks up slowly. "Qualified? Yes, we have to maintain certain standards," he says. "Our premium clients expect an environment of exclusivity." His words sound rehearsed, memorized from years of bias disguised as professionalism. A few heads turn. The woman at the jewelry counter whispers something to her friend. The air in the boutique feels colder. "I'm still interested in seeing the emerald version," Danielle replies, her voice calm. Edward exhales dramatically, as if dealing with a stubborn child. "Ma'am, this handbag costs more than most people make in a month. I'm trying to save you from embarrassment. Let me show you something more appropriate." He gestures toward the corner of the store where the seasonal markdowns sit beneath dimmer lighting. "You'll find several excellent options in that section, starting at $500. Danielle doesn't move. "Are you refusing to serve me?" "Not at all," he says with forced patience. "I'm protecting you from disappointment." He leans closer, lowering his tone to a condescending whisper that still carries. "We've had issues before, people overestimating what they can afford." A few customers look up, pretending not to listen. A woman browsing scarves mutters to her companion, "You'd think some people would know their limits." Across the room, Maya, the young associate, stands frozen, her face pale. She avoids Danielle's eyes, but her guilt is visible. Danielle sets the handbag down carefully. "The emerald version, please," she says again. Edward laughs softly, the sound brittle. "I'm trying to be reasonable. Perhaps another store would suit you better, something like Nordway Outlet." One of the men behind him smirks until Edward silences him with a look. Danielle's posture doesn't shift, but her silence commands the space more powerfully than shouting ever could. Around them, the quiet feels like pressure before a storm. Edward mistakes her calm for defeat. "This is a luxury environment," he says, his hand sweeping across the immaculate displays. "Our clientele expect a certain atmosphere. I'm sure you understand." Danielle studies him for a long moment. I do, she says at last. And I think you've just revealed what kind of atmosphere that is. Her phone buzzes once. She glances at it and types a single word in reply before slipping it back into her pocket. Edward crosses his arms. If you're not going to make a purchase, I'll have to ask you to leave. On what grounds? Loitering, he says, his voice sharp now. This is a place of business, not a museum. You've been standing here nearly an hour without buying anything. He's enjoying this now, the attention, the validation from the quiet nods of a few onlookers. The young security guard shifts uneasily but says nothing. The store phone rings. A sales associate answers, listens, then hurries over to Edward. Sir, it's corporate. They said it's urgent. Take a message, he snaps without turning. But sir, I said take a message. His tone slices the air, final. The associate retreats. Danielle watches him calmly. You should have taken that call, she says. I'll decide what's important here, he replies. Her expression doesn't change, but something in her gaze unnerves him. You're making a mistake, Mr. Sloan. He takes a step closer. The only mistake is you thinking you belong here. The words hang in the air like smoke. The store phone rings again, louder this time. The same associate answers, voice trembling. Mr. Sloan, it's Ms. Howard from Corporate Legal. She says it's about an ownership transition. Edward freezes for a fraction of a second, then waves her off again. Tell her I'm busy. Danielle tilts her head. Ownership transition? He ignores her. Security, he calls out. Please escort this woman out. The guard hesitates. Sir, maybe you should... That's an order, Edward snaps. Now, the double doors open suddenly. A tall woman in a gray suit steps in, a leather portfolio tucked under her arm. Her eyes sweep the room until they land on Danielle. Ms. Brooks, she says clearly, her voice carrying authority. We need to finalize the site inspection. Edward turns, confusion flashing across his face. Excuse me, who are you? Elaine Howard, she says briskly. Chief Operations Officer of Brooks Holdings. And if I'm not mistaken, you're Mr. Sloan, the store manager. He blinks. Brooks Holdings? That's... Danielle's calm voice cuts through his confusion. The new parent company of Maison Duclair. The color drains from his face. That's impossible. Mr. Whitman owned, Elaine corrects. The sale was finalized last week. The entire boutique seems to pause. Even the music feels quieter. Customers glance between them, sensing they're witnessing something extraordinary. The front doors open again. A middle-aged man in a tailored navy suit enters, flanked by two corporate staffers. His badge reads Regional Director, Maison Duclair Group. Edward, he says sternly, I've been calling you for over an hour. Do you know who this is? He gestures toward Danielle. This is Danielle Brooks, your new majority owner. Edward stares at him speechless. His mouth opens, but the words stumble out half-formed. That can't be. It is, the director says flatly. And you've just made a very public mistake. The crowd watches, silent but rapt. Every face turned toward the man who just lost everything he thought he controlled. Danielle steps forward, her composure unbroken. I've been in this store for less than an hour, she says evenly. And in that time, I've witnessed systematic discrimination. 3 black customers followed, refused service or humiliated, including myself. Edward tries to recover, voice shaking. You're twisting things. You don't understand how luxury retail works. We make quick judgments to protect our merchandise. Is it policy to offer champagne to some customers while following others with security? She asks. To tell someone where they belong based on how they look? He glances at the cameras, realizing too late what they've captured. His own system of surveillance has turned against him. Every second recorded, every word preserved. Danielle doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. You were never protecting the brand, Mr. Sloan, she says. You were protecting your prejudice. The quiet that follows feels final. Edward takes a step back, eyes darting toward the door, but the security guard now stands beside it, no longer on his side. Elaine opens her portfolio and pulls out a document. Mr. Sloan, effective immediately, your employment with Maison Duclair is terminated. He stares at her, mouth trembling. You can't, we can, she says, and we just did. The reality lands like a hammer. His face drains of all color as customers whisper in shock. Danielle folds her arms, her tone soft but unwavering. Luxury, she says, isn't about exclusion. It's about excellence in quality, service, and respect. Something you clearly forgot. Edward's voice cracks. This is a misunderstanding. I was following standards. Then those standards end today. The guard approaches, now at Danielle's signal instead of his. Edward hesitates, pride warring with panic. "You're making a mistake," he mutters again, but his voice has lost its edge. As he's escorted toward the back office, his kingdom collapses behind him, customers whispering, employees staring. The air charged with the weight of justice long overdue. Danielle watches him go without satisfaction. Only certainty, because this isn't revenge. It's reform, and she's just getting started. By evening, the once silent boutique hums with the low tension of transition. The staff avoid eye contact as Edward disappears into the back office with security at his side. His nameplate still hangs crookedly on the door, a last trace of a man who believed control meant superiority. Danielle stands in the center of the showroom, taking in the space that now truly belongs to her. The mirrors, the soft lighting, the scent of leather and perfume. It all looks different when you know how easily dignity can be denied inside it. Elaine joins her. "Corporate's already drafting the formal report," she says quietly. "Would you like me to start interviewing the team?" "Not tonight," Danielle replies. "Tonight they need to see that everything they thought untouchable can change." She turns to Maya, the young associate who'd tried to apologize earlier. "Would you close the register for me?" Maya hesitates. "Yes, ma'am. And tomorrow morning meet me in the office," Danielle adds. "We have things to fix." That night, long after the last light in the display cases dims, Danielle remains in the office that used to be Edward's. His files sit stacked in neat order, his handwriting looping across employee evaluations and commission charts. The deeper she reads, the colder her expression becomes. Customer logs marked with coded notes. "Watch closely. Low potential. Avoid high-value items." Names beside the codes are almost all the same color. She exhales slowly, fighting the familiar ache of recognition. It's never about the bag. It's about the assumption. Elaine re-enters, holding a laptop. "We pulled security footage from the last month," she says. "You'll want to see this." On the screen, the pattern unfolds in painful clarity. Black shoppers shadowed by guards, white customers greeted with champagne, staff whispering as if rehearsed. Danielle watches in silence until the clip ends. "How deep does it go?" she asks. "Every branch has its own version," Elaine says. "Different faces, same behavior. Edward trained most of the current managers, then we'll untrain them." By sunrise, the office becomes a command post. The walls once decorated with framed certificates now hold spreadsheets and flowcharts. Every hour brings new reports. Commission disparities, complaint records, exit interviews that were never filed. When Maya arrives, she looks startled to find the space transformed. "You wanted to see me?" Danielle gestures for her to sit. "How long have you been here?" "Almost 3 years. You ever get promoted?" Maya laughs softly without humor. "No, ma'am. I'm told I'm too quiet for main floor clients." "You're quiet because you're professional," Danielle replies. "That's exactly the kind of person who should be leading the store." Maya blinks, uncertain. "Leading?" "Starting today, you're interim manager. You'll help rebuild this place from the inside out." Her disbelief breaks into cautious hope. "But there are senior associates who looked away while discrimination became policy," Danielle finishes. "We're not rewarding silence." Outside the office, whispers spread faster than perfume. By noon, 2 senior staff members are escorted out under HR supervision. Neither protests. They know the evidence is irrefutable. News travels upward through the company before day's end. At headquarters, board members read Danielle's preliminary report with growing unease. The numbers are clear. Discrimination cost them more revenue than any theft ever could. That evening, Danielle walks through the empty showroom again. She pauses at the handbag display, the same one where Edward first dismissed her. The handbag still sits beneath its light, silent witness to what changed. She lifts it carefully, studying the seam again. The stitches hold perfectly, untouched by the chaos around them. Elaine steps beside her. "We'll need a full retraining protocol, revised commission structure, legal audits. It's going to be messy." "Good," Danielle says. "Change is supposed to be messy." She places the handbag back on its stand, this time not as a customer but as a symbol. The luxury she's building will have no invisible price tags that measure worth by skin. As midnight settles, a new sign appears on the store's glass doors. Not an announcement, but a promise printed in clean, bold type. Every customer deserves respect. Every employee deserves fairness. Elegance begins with equality. For the first time in years, the boutique feels alive, not with privilege but with purpose. And far across town, in a dim apartment littered with unopened mail, Edward Sloan stares at his silent phone. Messages from lawyers, rejection notices, unreturned calls. The world he once ruled now keeps its distance. He scrolls through news updates until he finds one headline that makes his stomach twist. Maison de Claire undergoes historic transformation under new ownership. He closes the article before finishing it, but the few words he saw are enough to tell him that Danielle Brooks isn't done, and that her changes are spreading beyond one store. Back in the office, Danielle writes her final note for the night. Tomorrow, send corporate directive. Zero tolerance for bias, full transparency in training and pay. Launch anonymous reporting system. Every employee deserves a voice. She sets down her pen, the city lights glowing against the window, and allows herself one small, steady breath. The storm has only begun, but for the first time it's blowing in the right direction. Morning light pours through the boutique's glass windows, casting warm stripes across the marble floor. For the first time in months, the air feels open. No tension, no whispered judgments, just quiet possibility. Danielle arrives early, a coffee in one hand and a new stack of documents in the other. The sign on the door catches her eye again. Elegance begins with equality. She smiles faintly. Inside, Maya is already at work, organizing displays and guiding staff with a confidence that's grown overnight. Her voice carries softly across the store, steady, professional, respected. The younger associates watch her closely, taking cues from the way she interacts with every customer as if each one matters equally. Morning. Maya, Danielle says. Good morning, Ms. Brooks. We're ready for inspection. Danielle glances around the store. The changes are subtle but powerful. The champagne service now sits near the front, available to everyone who enters. The high-end merchandise isn't guarded behind invisible barriers anymore, and for the first time the staff reflect the diversity of the customers walking through the door. Looks perfect, Danielle says. Now let's make it standard. An hour later, in the conference room of the company's Manhattan headquarters, Danielle presents her vision to the executive board. Rows of polished men and women in designer suits shift uncomfortably as she speaks. We're restructuring the commission model, she says. From now on, pay is tied not just to sales volume but to customer satisfaction. Every associate will have equal access to high-ticket clients. No more coded assignments. No more quiet discrimination. A silver-haired board member clears his throat. That's admirable, Ms. Brooks, but inclusivity doesn't sell handbags. Danielle meets his gaze without blinking. It sells trust, and trust sells everything else. The room falls silent. She continues, her tone calm but firm. We'll also implement blind hiring. Every resume will be stripped of names and backgrounds before review. Talent first, appearance second. Another executive leans forward. That could complicate recruitment. Good, Danielle interrupts. If it's uncomfortable, it means we're fixing something that's been broken too long. By the end of the meeting, the reforms are approved, some reluctantly, some with quiet admiration. Danielle knows she's just declared war on an entire culture, but she's prepared for the battle. Back at the boutique, Maya stands by the front desk reviewing the first training modules. Videos play showing new service standards, emphasizing warmth, respect, and listening. Employees nod thoughtfully as they watch real examples of what went wrong and how it must never happen again. The energy in the room feels different now. Alive. Later that afternoon, Elaine bursts into the office with a newspaper in hand. It's already happening, she says breathlessly. The media picked up the story. Danielle takes the paper. The headline reads, Luxury Brand Takes Stand Against Discrimination, A New Era for Retail. The article praises the company's transparency, calling the move revolutionary for an industry built on exclusion. Social media floods with support. Stories from customers who had once been profiled or ignored. Hashtags spread celebrating the company's courage to change, but not everyone is celebrating. In a quiet apartment across the river, Edward sits hunched over his laptop watching the same headline on his screen. His jaw tightens. She turned my store into a circus, he mutters. His phone buzzes with another email, another rejection. No one in luxury retail will hire him. He closes the laptop and stares into the dark. Across the city, Danielle finishes her day surrounded by stacks of progress reports. Complaints are down. Sales are up. Customer feedback is glowing. Still, she feels the weight of what's next. Change this visible always comes with resistance. Elaine enters quietly. "We've received some threats to boycott," she says. A few longtime clients claim the brand's losing its exclusivity. Danielle looks out the window, watching the city move beneath her. "Then they were never really our clients," she says. "They were customers of a mindset, not a mission." That evening, she sends an email to every employee in the company. It begins simply, "We're not redefining luxury, we're reclaiming it." The message ends with her promise. From this day forward, no one will be made to feel small inside our walls. The next week, stores across the country begin implementing the new standards. Cameras record managers greeting customers with genuine warmth. Sales associates offer service without judgment. Security guards are retrained to protect everyone equally, not selectively. And then something unexpected happens. Sales spike. Customers who once avoided the brand begin returning, drawn by the sincerity behind the change. Word spreads that the company treats people with kindness, not calculation. What started as damage control becomes a national story of redemption. But progress never comes without pushback. One morning, Elaine rushes into Danielle's office holding a letter stamped with legal insignia. "It's from Edward's lawyer," she says. "He's filing for wrongful termination and defamation." Danielle reads the first lines, her expression unreadable. "He's not ready to accept responsibility." "Should we fight it publicly?" Elaine asks. Danielle closes the letter and sets it aside. "No, we'll let the evidence speak." That afternoon, her legal team sends Edward's attorney a neatly organized folder containing video recordings, witness statements, and documented policies he violated. It's all undeniable. The following morning, the lawsuit is quietly withdrawn. Still, Danielle knows the story isn't over. Days later, a former employee posts on social media, describing years of mistreatment under Edward's leadership. Within hours, hundreds of comments pour in, customers, employees, and even other managers from different locations sharing similar experiences. The company's name trends online, but this time not for scandal, for accountability. Danielle decides to meet the moment head-on. She releases a public statement. "We failed to see what was happening inside our stores. That failure ends now. True elegance isn't about exclusion. It's about excellence in product and service and in how we treat one another. The honesty disarms critics." Journalists call it one of the most transparent responses in luxury retail history. Fashion magazines praise her leadership. The public begins to see the company as a symbol of progress rather than privilege. And quietly, something else changes too. Inside the store, customers start treating each other differently. People smile more. Conversations start between strangers who might once have avoided each other. The boutique that once divided people by appearance now brings them together through appreciation. As the month ends, sales reports come in. Profits are up by nearly 20%. But Danielle doesn't smile at the numbers. She smiles at what they mean. Proof that equality doesn't weaken luxury, it strengthens it. That night, as she closes her laptop, Elaine's phone rings. She listens, her brow furrowing. "It's him," she says. "Edward just contacted Harold Whitman, the former owner." Danielle leans back, thoughtful. "Of course he did. He's looking for a lifeline. Should we be worried?" "No," Danielle says softly. "Let him talk. The past can't threaten the future we're building." Still, she knows storms have a way of circling back. And Edward Sloan is a man who's just realized his pride is all he has left. Edward waits in the polished silence of a private country club, his reflection distorted in the surface of his half-empty glass. He has rehearsed this meeting for days, convinced that one conversation with the old owner will change everything. When Harold Whitman finally arrives, immaculate in a linen jacket, Edward stands too quickly. "Thank you for seeing me," he says, voice tight with hope. "You know what's happening at the company. She's tearing it apart." Whitman lowers himself into the chair, folding his napkin with patient hands. "She's rebuilding it," he replies. "There's a difference." Edward leans forward. "You built that brand on exclusivity, on taste. She's turning it into a charity project. The clientele who kept the lights on, they'll leave." Whitman studies him for a long moment. "The clientele are already leaving, Edward. You just never noticed. The world is changing and you refuse to. Edward's voice trembles with desperation. So that's it? You're siding with her? I'm siding with the future, Whitman says quietly. Take whatever position you can find and start over. Learn to see people, not categories. The words hit harder than any dismissal. When Whitman leaves, Edward remains seated, staring at the glass in front of him until the ice melts completely. Across the city, Danielle prepares for the company's first nationwide leadership summit. Dozens of managers fill the conference hall, some cautious, some inspired. On a massive screen behind her, a single sentence glows. Luxury is not a privilege. It's a practice of respect. She begins to speak, not from notes, but from conviction. Every store we operate will live by this standard. We will measure success not only by sales, but by the dignity we offer to everyone who walks through our doors. This isn't charity, it's good business. Applause builds slowly, then rises into something genuine. The change has taken root, weeks pass. The transformation spreads beyond the company's walls. Other luxury brands begin to follow, adopting inclusive policies and transparency pledges. Trade journals call it the Brooks effect. Retail analysts cite her model as proof that equality drives profit, not loss. But progress is never universal. One morning, Elaine bursts into Danielle's office, phone in hand. Edward's done an interview, she says. He's accusing the company of moral grandstanding, claims we ruined his career. Danielle listens as the recording plays. Edward's voice is brittle, defensive, insisting he was misunderstood. It's the sound of a man clinging to a story no one believes anymore. She sighs. Let it run. The truth will outlive the noise, and it does. The interview is met with silence. No sympathy. No outrage. Just disinterest. The world has already moved on. Months later, the flagship boutique reopens after renovation. The old gold signage has been replaced by sleek lettering that reads simply Maison Claire. The space gleams with warmth instead of intimidation. The rope barriers are gone. The champagne service is open to everyone. Danielle walks through the crowd gathered for the reopening, greeting customers and employees alike. Among them, she spots an elderly woman waiting quietly near the handbags. Her hands tremble slightly as she approaches. Ms. Brooks? The woman asks softly. My name is Evelyn. I'm Edward's grandmother. Danielle studies her face, then gestures toward a nearby seating area. Please come sit. Evelyn lowers herself carefully, clutching her purse. I came to say I'm sorry. He wasn't raised that way. I don't know how he turned so cold. You don't owe me an apology, Danielle says gently. Maybe not, Evelyn replies, but someone should. He's lost everything, and maybe that's what he needed to understand what he became. Danielle listens, her expression calm. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to start again. Evelyn nods, eyes glistening. He's working now. Small department store across town. His manager's a young black woman. He says she runs a fair shop. A quiet smile touches Danielle's lips. Then maybe there's hope for him yet. Before leaving, Evelyn pauses to admire a small crystal figurine on the counter. Danielle insists she take it as a gift. For courage, she says. When the crowd gathers for the reopening speech, the cameras flash, but Danielle doesn't seem to notice them. Her focus is on the people, shoppers, staff, and students invited from local design programs. Luxury, she begins, was never meant to be a gate that keeps people out. It was meant to be a bridge between creativity and appreciation. We forgot that. But we're remembering now. She gestures to the room around them. The true measure of elegance isn't what you wear. It's how you make others feel. The way you treat people when you think no one is watching, that's where character lives. Her words hang in the still air. Then the applause begins, first a ripple, then a swell that fills the room. Reporters capture every moment. Their headlines the next day telling a single story. A luxury brand learns humanity. In the months that follow, the company flourishes. Sales reach new records. Employee turnover drops. Customer loyalty rises. The world takes notice, but Danielle never forgets where it began. With one insult, one assumption, one woman refusing to walk away. Across town, in a modest department store, Edward arranges displays under the supervision of a manager half his age. He moves slower now, more careful, polite to every customer. When a young man in plain clothes picks up an expensive wallet, Edward catches himself before speaking, swallows his instinct, and simply says, "It's handcrafted. Feel the stitching, it's remarkable." The customer smiles, thanks him, and makes the purchase. Edward watches him leave, unsure whether the warmth in his chest is pride or relief. Back at Maison Claire, Danielle stands before the store window as evening settles over the city. The streetlights reflect off the glass, merging her reflection with the golden glow inside. She thinks of every person who has ever been told they don't belong, of every closed door that could still be opened. The world will keep changing slowly and imperfectly, but she knows one truth now beyond doubt. Respect, once given freely, multiplies. She turns away from the window, the store alive with laughter and conversation. Justice had begun as a confrontation. Now it has become culture. And in that quiet victory, true elegance finally finds its meaning. The night after the reopening, the city hums with a restless kind of energy. Danielle stands on the balcony of her apartment overlooking the skyline, the sound of distant traffic weaving through the cool air. Her phone buzzes on the table beside her. Another message, another interview request. Every news outlet wants to feature her. Every publication wants her insight on leadership, equality, and change. But she isn't thinking about the spotlight. She's thinking about what comes next. In the quiet, she replays everything that's happened. The humiliation, the confrontation, the rebuilding. It all began because she refused to accept smallness disguised as sophistication. Now the company she bought to grow her portfolio has grown into something much larger. A symbol. She knows symbols are fragile things, though. They can inspire, but they can also provoke. Across town, Edward walks home under the heavy glow of streetlights, his uniform shirt sticking to his back. The department store closed an hour ago and his feet ache from standing. His reflection passes by the darkened windows of boutiques that once welcomed him. Every step reminds him of the distance between who he was and who he's become. He reaches his small apartment, tosses his keys on the counter, and stares at the letter pinned to the fridge. The rejection from another luxury retailer. Beneath it, an old photo of himself in a tailored suit at Maison de Claire's holiday gala. He stares at it until his chest tightens. Then he picks it up, tears it in half, and lets it fall into the trash. The next morning, he shows up to work early. His manager, Keisha, nods at him from across the floor. "Morning, Edward," she says, smiling. "Can you take the customer and watches? He looks like he could use a hand." He hesitates, still fighting the remnants of his old pride. Then he walks over and greets the man, a young teacher shopping for a gift for his wife. Edward listens, offers honest advice, and wraps the purchase carefully. When the man thanks him, Edward feels something he hasn't felt in years. Peace, small but real. Back at Maison Claire, Danielle prepares for a panel discussion on the future of ethical luxury. The event draws industry leaders, journalists, and students. As she walks onto the stage, applause fills the hall. She takes her seat and looks out at the crowd, thousands of faces waiting. They ask her about profits, about public image, about how she turned scandal into success. But Danielle talks about something else. Luxury without humanity, she says, is just decoration. Real success is when your employees walk into work proud, and your customers walk out seen. Her words earn another round of applause, but this time it's quieter, deeper, the kind that comes from people thinking instead of performing. After the panel, a young woman approaches her backstage, clutching a small notebook. "Ms. Brooks," she says nervously, "I'm studying business ethics. Your story, it's why I changed my major. I didn't know business could look like this." Danielle smiles, touched. "Then make sure it keeps looking like this. Don't wait for someone else to change it." Later that night, she returns to her office. The city lights flicker outside the tall windows, and the hum of the world feels softer now. Maya stops by on her way out. "We had a group of high school students visit today," she says. One of them asked if people like her could really work here someday. "What did you tell her?" "I told her she could own it one day," Maya replies, smiling. Danielle laughs quietly. Good answer. As Maya leaves, Danielle looks around the office. The same room that once symbolized exclusion now filled with light and purpose. The photographs on the wall show employees of every background standing together at store events, smiling genuinely. None of it looks forced anymore. It looks right. Her phone buzzes again. A new message appears, an email from Whitman, the former owner. "Congratulations," it reads. "You've built something I never could. I hope you keep pushing the rest of us forward." She stares at the message for a long time, then types a short reply. Thank you. I plan to. The following weekend, Maison Claire hosts its first community event, a showcase for young designers from underrepresented backgrounds. The boutique buzzes with energy as models, artists, and guests mingle freely. The store that once turned people away now opens its doors wide. Danielle stands near the display that started it all, the handbag section. The emerald version of that infamous bag rests on the shelf, its surface gleaming softly under the lights. A customer approaches and runs her hand along the edge. It's beautiful, she says. Danielle nods. It is. It's not just the craftsmanship, it's what it represents. The woman smiles and walks away with it, the sale feeling more like a shared understanding than a transaction. Outside, the sky deepens into twilight, and the boutique's windows glow like a promise kept. Edward passes by the storefront on his way home, slowing at the sight of the name above the doors. He stops for a moment, watching the light shimmer across the glass, and then keeps walking. No bitterness, no resentment, just quiet acceptance. For the first time in years, he doesn't feel invisible. Inside, Danielle looks out through the same glass, her reflection merging with the movement of people beyond the window. The world she imagined is finally taking shape. Not perfect, but real. The store hums softly with conversation and laughter, the kind of music that doesn't need instruments. Every voice carries its own note, blending into something whole. For a long time, luxury was a whisper meant for a few. Now it speaks in many voices. And as the night settles over the city, Danielle smiles because she knows that what started as one moment of humiliation has become a blueprint for change. True elegance, she thinks, isn't sold. It's shown. And once shown, it can never be forgotten.